How's it going here? Welcome back to another camera comparison video with the Xiaomi 12 Pro, and today I have it up against the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which is running iOS 15.2.1, and the Xiaomi 12 Pro has recently got a system update, so it is now running MiUI 13.0.21 in case you're wondering what version of the software each of these phones are running. And now the Xiaomi 12 Pro has its triple 50 megapixel camera system on the rear. And of course the iPhone has its tried and true 12 megapixel triple camera system on the rear. And so we're gonna find out today if megapixels really mean a lot. And I think we all know that it's both gonna be a blend of hardware and also software image processing. So we're gonna see which one comes out on top, or at least which one you prefer, because like I always do, I'm gonna shoot a bunch of photos and videos in both good and low light conditions. So you can see for yourself which of these two camera systems might be best for you. So take a look at all the photos and videos and let me know what you think. So here's a rear video test on the Xiaomi 12 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max. As you can see, they are both recording from the rear-facing cameras. And this is at 4K 30 frames per second with the ultra-wide-angle lens to start out on each. So I'll just pan around to give you a feel for how these ultra-wide-angle cameras compare side by side. And at least in the viewfinder, from what I'm seeing, the Xiaomi is overexposing the picture a lot more than the iPhone, which is doing a lot better job of correcting for that bright afternoon light there. Let's go ahead and start moving into the main lens so you can see what that looks like here. It's a one tap on the iPhone, main lens there. We'll pinch to zoom in on the Xiaomi. You'll see it lock into place. So this is 0.9 and the next one will be 1 times main lens. There we go, and you see it change immediately and lock into place. So it's now better exposing the shot here, at least what I'm seeing. A lot better exposure, still slightly overexposing those leaves with that bright light, but overall much better looking here on the main lens on the Xiaomi. You can see how that compares to the main lens on the iPhone. And if we pan over here to the right, we'll test the zoom here on that cell tower. So it's a one tap for a 3 times telephoto zoom on the iPhone. You can see that plane over there going by. And we can go to pinch to zoom for a similar 2 times telephoto. So this is about 1.5, and when you get to 2, you'll see it lock into place for the telephoto right there. And so it kind of locked in and changed. So you got 2 times optical versus 3 times optical on the iPhone. And then we'll move into a max 9 times digital zoom on the iPhone. And then I think we go to max, let's see, 7, 8, and then let's get to 9 times digital on the Xiaomi to compare what digital zoom looks like there. Looks a lot clearer on the iPhone than on the Xiaomi to me. And then let's go max this out on the Xiaomi all the way to a 15 times digital zoom there on the Xiaomi versus 9 times on the iPhone. So let's back these out on each. And let's get this to 1 times on the Xiaomi. And we'll go back to 1 times on the iPhone once I get the Xiaomi there. There we go. And then let's go back into 1 times here on the iPhone. Let's get to 1.0. Not a fan of the pinch to zoom interface here. But let's go ahead and test autofocus on the post with the Xiaomi first. There we go. Focuses up really quickly and refocuses away. Nice and snappy autofocus on the Xiaomi 12 Pro here. And let's go with the iPhone. Always pretty nice and snappy autofocus on the iPhone as well. And refocus away. So pretty snappy autofocus on each here. And let's test stabilization. We'll walk down the stairs so we can see what stabilization looks like here side by side in 4K on both phones. And then let's start jogging to stress out that stabilization here. And then let's pull up here and pan up into the sky to see how it handles the really bright sunlight here. So this will be a front-facing camera test on the Xiaomi 12 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max. They are both recording from the front-facing cameras, and this is at their max resolutions and frame rates. So that's 1080p 60 frames per second on the Xiaomi and 4K 30 frames per second on the iPhone. And as you can see, the iPhone has a wider field of view. It can fit more in the frame than the Xiaomi, which has a much more aggressive crop for that electronic stabilization. And I'm starting in my usual testing spot in some shade so I can see what these front-facing cameras can do with some fairly even lighting condition without any kind of harsh afternoon light on them. But we can start panning around so you can see what I mean as we look into some more difficult lighting behind me. Sun's coming from that direction, and like any other camera, it's going to blow out the background to try to expose myself, which is the subject, as best as possible. Although the iPhone, even though you can see those rays of light, it's trying to more evenly expose the image than the Xiaomi. But let's keep panning around so you can see what this looks like as we get back around this way, and we'll start walking to test that stabilization to see what that looks like here side by side. So let me know what you think about the front-facing cameras of the Xiaomi 12 Pro compared to the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Everyone, so here's a low light video test from the rear facing cameras on the Xiaomi 12 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max. This is the ultra wide angle cameras on each at 4K 30 frames per second here to start. So I'll just pan around to give you a feel for how these ultra wide angle cameras compare here side by side. The iPhone has a wider field of view, it can fit more in the frame than the Xiaomi. But let's go ahead and try to move into the main lens right now. And on the Xiaomi it's more of a pinch to zoom, so you'll see it snap into place and get brighter when it hits the main lens. So that's 0.9, and let's get to 1 times, and there we go. So you just saw it get brighter and lock in. This is the main lens on the Xiaomi, and tap on the iPhone for its main lens. Also got a little bit brighter there. So let's go ahead and pan around here with the main lens, and you can see what these look like here side by side with the main cameras on each phone. And you can see here the Xiaomi's flaring that street light out a little bit more than the iPhone is right now. But let's go ahead and pan around this way and start walking to test stabilization. Also, we'll start walking over to a much darker area, a little bit more challenging lighting situation here, as they're both performing decently well, obviously in a pretty well lit area back there. Also pay attention to some micro jitters in the stabilization that occurs more often than not in low light here. But as we are rounding the corner here, it's definitely getting much darker, and both these phones are trying to brighten things up much more than what I'm seeing with my own eyes right now, and that's going to come at the expense of some noise. And we'll stop here and pan up into the night sky. There is some light pollution, so it's not completely pitch black, but that is trying to brighten things up, so you can see some noise here in both cameras, a little bit more in the iPhone, I think. If we pan around this way, it's a little bit mixed lighting situation down this alleyway. Darker alleyway with some accent lights coming off the building here, so you can see how each of these phones handle that. So there you go, there is a low light test in 4K on both phones. So here's some low light video from the front facing cameras on the Xiaomi 12 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max. They're recording at their max resolutions, which is 1080p Full HD on the Xiaomi and 4K on the iPhone. They're both at 30 frames per second, even though the Xiaomi can record at 60 frames per second. I think it'll just be too dark here in low light with that setting. And so as you can see, I'm starting out my usual testing spot here with some pretty good lighting around me, so you can see what these front facing cameras can do in some fairly optimal lighting. And obviously the iPhone has a much wider field of view. It can fit more in the frame versus the cropping that's going on the Xiaomi for that stabilization. But let's go ahead and start walking just to test the stabilization here on these front-facing cameras, so you can see that side by side. And also that will allow us to walk over to a much more challenging lighting situation here, a little bit darker area, so you can see how these cameras perform in that kind of a light. And I've also got a water fountain over here to my right, so you can test out the microphones and see how that sounds against that background noise. And we'll pull up here and pan around, so you can see the really bright street lights behind me there and how these front-facing cameras are handling that. And actually pretty good from both of these, not flaring them out too badly considering how bright those street lights are. Let's move over here back into this darker area so you can see what these front-facing cameras look like here in this much more challenging light here side by side. And the iPhone, because it is a little bit warmer, it's looking a little more dingy in this lighting to me. But I think that's going to do it for this camera comparison between the Xiaomi 12 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max. Let me know what you thought about all the photos and videos that you saw, and which one you preferred and why. As for my basic thoughts, I think for the most part, the iPhone pretty much won across the board. There are some shots where the Xiaomi looked better, but more often than not, I prefer the iPhone. I think the Xiaomi is just out of the box in the auto mode, overexposing both photos and video. And you can dial that back in Pro mode, but it still doesn't have as much detail even after adjusting the exposure compared to the iPhone for both photos and video. So I think I'm just going to give it as an overall winner to the iPhone to me. That's just what I personally thought, but let me know what you think. If you agree or disagree, drop me a comment below. And if you have any other questions about these phones leave a comment as well. I'll try to answer what I can. And as always, thanks for watching.